Well, hey there, Antelope football fans. Welcome to a area round playoff edition of the Abernathy Antelope football pregame show. Voice of the Antelopes, Ty Horsford here with you. It's game week for the area round of the Class 3A Division II playoffs. As coming up Friday night from Canyon's Kimbrough Stadium, you've got the fifth-ranked Abernathy Antelopes battling the tradition-rich Childress Bobcats. Thanks for checking out this week's Antelope pregame show as we get you ready for the Abernathy Antelopes and the Childress Bobcats. It should be a good one as the fun is just beginning, hopefully, for the Abernathy Antelopes. Again, they began their playoff journey last Thursday in Big Spring. The Antelopes, they won a laugher 75-0. They got the win over the Reagan County Owls in the bi-district round of the playoffs. Again, just dominant in every sense of the word. We could have a debate on why four teams from a district shouldn't make the playoffs, but we don't have time for that today. Again, the Antelopes very impressive in their 75-0 victory over Reagan County last Thursday night. A little bit tougher of an opportunity or a bi-district round for the Childress Bobcats. They score a 13-7 win in a defensive battle against the Ballinger Bearcats in the bi-district round. As you've got a Childress Bobcat team, they come into this one at 5-6 overall. They're the number 2 seed representing District 3A Division II. We're going to talk about it in a second. Don't let that 5-6 overall record fool you. You've got a very formidable foe coming up Friday night in Canyon in the Childress Bobcats. This actually the second straight year that these two teams, Abernathy and Childress, have hooked up in the area round of the playoffs. One of Abernathy's most complete game efforts of the year came when these two teams met last season. That game was at Dick Bivens Stadium in Amarillo, and the Abernathy Antelopes got an exhilarating 35-14 win against Childress last year. Same round of the playoffs a year ago. Childress was a 10-win ball club at that point. However, the winner of this game will advance to the third round of the Texas High School Class 3A Division II playoffs. And that game would be held following Thanksgiving next Friday or Saturday. And that is going to be against the winner of Alpine, the Bucks, and the Freona Chiefs. And so that game actually being played on Saturday of this week. But again, the winner of Friday's contest between the Antelopes and the Bobcats will get either Alpine or Freona in the third round of the playoffs. Hopefully we're previewing that game for you next week leading up to the third round matchup for the Abernathy Antelopes. But there's work to be done as a very good Childress Bobcat team stands in the way. Let's scout the opponent a little bit, if you will. Let's take a look at the Childress Bobcats. We've already mentioned they're 5-6 overall. They're the number 2 seed representing District 3A. They compete in that district with the Canadian Wildcats, Freona, Spearman, Tulia, kind of that group of teams from the Texas Panhandle. And the thing about Childress is they've won 5 of their last 6 games. They're playing well. They had an 0-5 start, but again, we talked about don't let that not so good record fool you for Childress. They kind of had a murderer's row, if you will, in the non-district portion of their schedule. They had a very, very difficult non-district portion of their schedule, and they had some close losses en route to that 0-5 start, but they got things shaped up by the time district play rolled around, and Childress is playing pretty well heading into this matchup with the Antelopes. Childress, probably 5 weeks into the year, I would argue the best 0-5 team in the state of Texas. In those ball games, you had losses to Bushland, 29-22. You had a loss to Perryton, 22-14. Eastland, 25-8. Munster, 12-6. And then kind of the one juggernaut in there, a 54-13 setback to Panhandle. But other than that, all of those games close, and for the most part, against either highly rated smaller schools or larger schools. So a very tough non-district schedule for Childress kind of prepared them for the gauntlet that was district play, and it paid off because Childress, with the exception of a loss to Canadian in district play, was pretty dominant and was very, very good. Coming in offensively, you have Childress entering the game. They're giving up 24 points per game. And that's overall on the season. But really, the thing is, I say they enter the game scoring 24 points a game. Excuse me, not giving up. They enter the contest scoring 24 points per contest. But it's really been their inability to score in their losses. As their 6 losses on the season, they have had a difficult time putting up very many points. It's been in their wins that they've put up big numbers. And so maybe that kind of them playing to their competition a little bit. Obviously, you're not going to score as much against better defenses. But again, really in the games that Childress has fallen short in, it's been a lack of offense that has been the problem for the Childress Bobcats. While they're averaging 24 a game, defensively they've been pretty good. The Bobcats giving up just 21 points per contest so far on the season. We mentioned they had a barn burner last Friday in the bi-district round of the playoffs as they defeated the Ballinger Bearcats 13-7. That was a game that Ballinger actually led 7-0 late. Childress scores touchdowns on their final 2 possessions of the contest in the fourth quarter to win that ball game 13-7 in a defensive juggernaut. As again, Ballinger had taken a 7-0 lead in the fourth quarter, but it was the Bobcats. 2 late touchdowns and a big stand defensively as time ran out. Actually, though, with 51 seconds left in that game last Friday night, Childress gets in the end zone for the winning touchdown. Couple of guys to keep an eye on for the Bobcats. You've got quarterback Trent Maiden, 16 of 28 for 225 yards last week against Ballinger. Running back Miguel Salinas. Salinas scratched out a tough 104 yards on 21 carries against a pretty stout Ballinger rush defense. But really, guys, and it's something the Antelopes have not seen a whole lot of defensively. Childress can throw the football. Childress is going to come in. I expect them to try and spread it around a little bit and get some things going in the passing game. And so that's going to be the challenge for the Antelope defense, I think, come Friday night at Kimbrough Stadium in Canyon. They're going to have to be solid in their pass defense. They've proven time and time again in 2019 the Antelope defense can shut a good running team down. They really haven't had to prove that they could shut down a good passing team yet. And so they'll have their opportunity come Friday night because Childress can throw the football. Another guy to keep an eye on in that regard, wide receiver Devrin Sims, 7 catches for 57 yards last week. Favorite target for Maiden, he actually caught the winning touchdown from 10 yards out with 51 seconds to go last Friday night in Childress's win over the Ballinger Bearcats. Defensively, the Bobcats, they actually allowed over 220 yards rushing to Ballinger last week. It was Ballinger's inability to throw the football that kept them from having a hard time getting into the end zone. But Abernathy, they run the ball well, and so that number kind of benefits the Antelopes maybe a little bit, as maybe you've got a rush defense for the Bobcats that at times at least is susceptible. So that's a quick glance, if you will, at the opponent coming up Friday night in Canyon. It's the Childress Bobcats. Again, the number 2 seed out of District 3A of Division II. And they're 5-6 overall on the season. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's chat about those Abernathy Antelopes. As Abernathy comes into this ball game 10-1 on the season, the undefeated district champs out of District 3A Division II. So obviously, with that being said, they're the number 1 seed representing District 3A of Division II. By now, you know Abernathy's lone loss of the season came in that weather-shortened game back on homecoming against the Post Antelopes, 14-13. I can't tell you how many times over the last several weeks that I've heard someone say, I wish that we could have finished that ball game. But hey, that is neither here nor there. On the season, Abernathy, they have been absolutely dominant, outscoring their opponents, get this, on average, 47-7. As good and prolific as the Antelopes have been on the offensive side of the football, I'm more impressed really by the defensive effort you've seen from the Abernathy Antelopes in 2019. In 2 different games, including last week's by-district win, the Antelope defense has surrendered less than 10 yards of total offense. They did not give up a first down at all in 4 quarters last week in the win over Reagan County. So Abernathy's defense giving up just 7 points a game, looking to shut down a Childress offense that's going to spread things out just a little bit come Friday night. You've got Abernathy. They've been a team. We mentioned it a second ago. They like to run the football first. They are a dual threat offense. They can throw. They've proven that. They've got the ability to beat you deep, but an offense that prefers to run is coming into the contest. Antelopes averaging 280 yards on the ground, 119 through the air, right at 400 yards of total offense per contest coming into this one for the Abernathy Antelopes. And that number has just gotten better and better through district as Abernathy has put up some really big numbers in district play as that offense has really hit their stride, if you will. Some guys to keep an eye on for the Abernathy Antelopes. Obviously, you've got 4-year starter Bryson Daly at quarterback. The senior leads Abernathy in pretty much every offensive category. 147 yards a game on the ground, 107 yards a game through the air. He does a little bit of everything for Abernathy, and just a staggering stat for him in my mind. He has accounted for 43 touchdowns in 2019. Heck, that is more than some teams have scored as a team all year long. But Daly, a touchdown machine. And then you've got athlete Jess Hole, and I call him an athlete because he can do a little bit of everything. He lines up at wide receiver. He can run the football. He's a key in the punt and kickoff return games on special teams for the Abernathy Antelopes. He's averaging 32 yards a game rushing, 41 yards a game receiving. Again, we mentioned just the playmaker that he is in the return game. He returned a punt for a touchdown last Thursday in the by-district win over Reagan County. So Jess Hole, a guy to keep an eye on as well. And then on defense, we've talked about how good that Antelope defense has been. You've got guys like Matthew Deonda, 9 tackles a game. You've got Dante Flores, 10 tackles a game. The thing about Dante, 12 tackles for loss. But you throw in Daly on defense, Miles Keith on that line. Man, Abernathy's defense has just been absolutely phenomenal. And those are some names you're going to hear us call come Friday night in Canyon. But it's the Abernathy Antelopes and the Childress Bobcats, at least in my mind, for what it's worth, a couple of keys to the game that this game may come down to. It will be Abernathy's ability to stop the pass. We really haven't seen Abernathy tested so much in that regard so far this year. They've been successful the times they have been tested in the past game, but by far going to be their biggest test in that department coming up Friday night in Canyon. So how does Abernathy handle that defensively? And then if you're the Antelopes, don't beat yourself. I think that could be a key to the game every week. Avoid the costly penalties and don't turn the football over. Play your game that you've played the entire 2019 season, and I think you'll be fine if you're the Abernathy Antelopes. But, man, there's just no room for mistakes when you get to the area round of the playoffs, and that's how it should be, is it will be tough from here on out for the Abernathy Antelopes. But you've got a good one coming up Friday night from Kimbrough Stadium in Canyon, Texas. It's going to be the Abernathy Antelopes, ranked 5th in the state, and the Bobcats of Childress. We will have the call for you if you don't make the trip, if you're not able to be there. We will have the call for you beginning at 6:45, 15 minutes prior to a 7 o'clock kickoff coming up Friday night in Canyon at Kimbrough Stadium. The Abernathy Antelopes and the Childress Bobcats. Cannot wait. Thanks for taking time to watch our preview video today, our pregame video today, and we can't wait to see you Friday night from Kimbrough Stadium in Canyon as the Abernathy Antelopes look to continue what they hope to be a magical run through the 2019 playoffs. This is Voice of the Antelopes. Ty Horsford, go Lopes, and we will see you on Friday.